To the minority, I want to say this. We've never shied away from our disagreements, and I do not expect anyone to do so now. But however bright of a contrast that we draw between us, it must never blind us to the common ground that we share. We must never shy away from making progress for the American people wherever we can. And so as your speaker, I promise to uphold the rights of the minority. I promise to hear you out and let you have your say. If I had to sum up, it would be this: agreement whenever possible, but at all times, respect.
What a horrible woman she is.
Jack, you got to tell us how you really feel about Nancy Pelosi.
I just did. She's a horrible woman.
Paul Ryan would have a lot better chance of pulling that off than I would, because I might just turn around on Mike and say that to her. What a horrible woman you are. Welcome back into the show. Things a little crazy around here. First show of 2017. Lots to get to. So stick around for that. Right now, though, we've been talking about Paul Ryan, who just made those comments a few minutes ago after he got reelected House Speaker. Stood up and talked a lot about an agenda, getting things done for the American people, listening to the minority as they tried to get their agenda through, but you have to wonder how much luck they're going to have in the House when it comes to defunding Obamacare and some of these other issues. Jared Halpern from Fox News Radio is joining us right now, and I'm sure he listened to those same comments. Jared, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Like back to school day.
Yeah, exactly. It is back to school day.
And actually on the House floor in particular, because the first day where they're doing the swearing in and all of that stuff, members often bring their families on the floor with them, so there's a lot of kids running around. Who, as the time grows longer and longer, grow increasingly bored with the the proceedings, if you will.
It's bad enough for adults to sit still through some of that, right? Yeah, that's the truth.
At least you can blame it on your kid if somebody cries. Oh, no, it was them.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. I wanted to talk for a moment about their priorities.
Yeah.
I had a bite earlier from Kevin McCarthy claiming that he wants to start Congress by reforming the Veterans Committee. That one kind of took me by surprise. I figured Obamacare or maybe immigration reform would be somewhere at the top.
Well, one thing you like that you will sometimes hear from Republican leaders, I think Paul Ryan has said it quite a bit, is you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
So that they have a bold list. And listen, you just heard from Speaker Ryan, who said that Republicans now have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity after voters gave the GOP control of Congress and the presidency, telling them not to be timid, to reach for a bright horizon and deliver. So, listen, they're feeling energized. You're going to see the Senate move this week. In fact, already the Senate Budget Committee Chairman, Mike Enzi, introduced a resolution to begin the process of repealing the Affordable Care Act. It would be done through what's called budget reconciliation, which is not really arcane. It was done last time as well, but it's a budget-type thing. You can only do it once a Congress, or once a year, I guess, once a year. It's part of a budget resolution that fast-tracks the resolution. So in other words, it can't be filibustered. So Senate Republicans would only need 51 votes to get it to the House, which would only need a majority vote to then send it to the president. They did that last year, you'll remember, through budget reconciliation, and then President Obama, of course, vetoed it, the repeal to the Affordable Care Act. So that's going to happen pretty quick, maybe even before February, that they get something like that done, at least the first stages. Now, that obviously begs the question, then what? And that is where Democrats are really going to put up a fight, because they say they're repealing a law, or at least putting in place a mechanism to repeal a law without any sort of consensus yet on what a replacement looks like. And certainly the president-elect has offered suggestions, and you've heard Republican leaders offer suggestions, but there is no cohesive plan yet written down as to this is what this is the timeline, this is how it will be implemented, this is what will happen to the 20 million people on an Affordable Care Act plan right now. Those are going to be very important details, and that is going to be, I think, where you see Democrats really try and wage this fight. Maybe not legislatively because they don't have the votes, but certainly pushing this from publicity sort of PR standpoint as you get closer and closer to midterm elections.
Sure.
Which are right around the corner, believe it or not.
Liz, go ahead to cut number 13 for me. These were the comments by Nancy Pelosi on Obamacare.
Nancy Pelosi now pleading with Republicans, saying, give Obamacare, just give it a second look. Here's what she said.
The fact is, it's the old thing of going into a china shop. You break it, you own it. And they're dealing with something that is very, when I say complex, it's sophisticated.
So complex, you have to pass the bill to read it.
Pelosi, truth be told. I mean, she really orchestrated this when it came up in the House. Remember, she was Speaker.
Yes.
And with an awful lot of opinions on the law as she tried to usher this bill through. Her broader point is this. This was from a conference call she had with reporters yesterday that I listened in on, that she said it was an act of political cowardice for Republicans to repeal a law or at least vote on a repeal without replacing it, without doing the hard work of putting in a legislative fix. And her point is what they're trying to do is get credit for repealing a law, but slow-rolling implementation. That's the accusation from Democrats, that they're trying to get credit for fulfilling a campaign promise without actually doing that. Now, obviously, Republicans have a different argument on it, and they say this is going to be a process, but we want to get the ball rolling as quickly as possible, that they're not going to just sit around and, as we've heard from Republican leaders, let this law collapse in on itself, and that the first step of that is repealing it, getting that language in place, and then coming up with a responsible alternative. What that includes remains to be seen, and how it's paid for, which is going to be a big part, remains to be seen. Because remember, Republicans have accepted parts of the law. They like that insurance companies, they've said that they're not going to change the provision that insurance companies can deny coverage for pre-existing conditions. Presumably, they will keep that provision where you can stay on your parent's plan until you're 26 years old. Insurance companies, at least in the run-up to the law the first time around, said those types of demands is why they had to have things like the mandate.
Sure.
And so that's going to be the question, right? And I think that's what Leader Pelosi's point was, is that, she does not want, and again, this is all about framing it for the midterm elections, she does not want Republicans to get credit for something that they have not yet completed.
That's a good point. I have to wonder, Jared, in terms of your reporting on this, I heard various debates yesterday. I've actually pulled a couple sound bites on it, on how big of a fight Democrats are going to put up in the Senate against these cabinet choices.
Yeah.
And will they pick one person to stake their ground on, or are they going to pick two or three of them?
Stick their ground on 8 to begin with.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Here's the rub is they don't have the votes to really deny anybody without Republican support, without Republicans joining the effort to block anybody. The nuclear option took care of that. Remember, in 2013, Harry Reid, when he was Democratic leader, or majority leader, lowered the threshold for executive confirmations to a simple majority, 51 votes.
Right.
So there's no way to filibuster these cabinet appointments. What they are going to try and do is slow roll the confirmation hearing process. Democrats have complained that they don't have all of the information that they've asked for from some of these nominees. They want a full vetting of these nominees. So I think what you're going to see is, I don't know if the list will remain at 8, but you will see certainly with some of the ones that they feel are the most egregious in their minds, Pruitt to run the EPA, for example, right, which is a very difficult choice for Republicans given his history with the EPA and
Sure.
his opposition to it. The Secretary of State choice, Rex Tillerson, will probably face a similar proposal. Keep in mind, he may have some issues with some Republicans as well. John McCain and others who want to take a hard line on Russia are going to want to have a lengthy hearing, you would think. So I think that's what you're going to see happen is Democrats try and, slow roll or make this as uncomfortable as possible for some of these nominees. But at the end of the day, if there's full Republican support for these nominees, then they're going to get confirmed.
That's a great point. Jared Halpern with Fox News Radio. Listen, I appreciate your time.
Sure thing.
Yep, take care. Appreciate getting him on there and getting his thoughts on that. And like he said, ultimately, unless they choose to filibuster one of these candidates, which, could certainly happen, and who's it going to be? I don't think they're going to do more than one. I could be wrong about that. But I don't think they will pick that they'll try to filibuster more than one. There's a lot of pressure on them to be a hindrance, and the Republicans did their best to do the same thing when the Democrats were in charge. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about doing that. Listen to what they've said already about Jeff Sessions. Do we have the stinger up? All right, listen.
Jeff Sessions is not some champion for civil rights. He has a very, very troublesome record that makes most people who are vulnerable feel trepidation.
But the harshest allegations are that Sessions is, as we said, racially insensitive. Some critics say racist.
And Sessions as Attorney General, a pick that threatens all the work done by Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch.
Thank you, Reverend Al. So that gives you an idea what they're ramping up against Jeff Sessions. But then there's another group of them that hate Pruitt. And there's another group that hate Rex Tillerson. Because they all, on the left, they despise success. They don't want, you didn't build that. That's their attitude on the left. They don't want to celebrate people who've been successful in business. Their automatic default assumption is that they somehow cheated if they're a billionaire. They cheated the system. They stole that money from somebody. You didn't build that. You don't deserve that. The big green envy monster lives on the left in this country. So listen to this guy. His name is William Smith. He's an African-American who serves on the Judiciary Committee. He's not a congressman. He was hired as an attorney to serve on the Judiciary Committee. He's worked with Jeff Sessions for years. Listen to how he counters that montage you just heard about Senator Jeff Sessions.
I say that the people who are making these allegations don't know Jeff Sessions. They don't have a history of Jeff Sessions. If you look at these allegations from 1986, they come from a witness who's been really discredited over time. And so you look for something that happened previous to 1986, that it wouldn't be excused if it did happen, but it didn't happen. But if you look at 1996, if you look at 2006, if you look at 2016, no allegations against Jeff Sessions. These people are just bringing up false rumors just because they don't like the policies Jeff Sessions is going to bring.
Just because they don't like the policies Jeff Sessions is going to bring. And Reverend Al thinks he's going to reverse everything Eric Holder has pulled off so far in Loretta Lynch. Boy, don't we hope. Don't we hope. We don't have an activist Department of Justice who's got an agenda when they approach a situation like we saw in Ferguson. It's exactly what happened there. And they got it thrown back in their face, but it didn't stop them. They went ahead and did it in Louisiana, New York, and everywhere else there was a problem. Same attitude, same approach. All right, got to get to a break. When we come back, we're going to